In the 50s, George Orwell wrote a book. Since then, we've learned that George Orwell isn't his name. The book was not science fiction. He was, in fact, a insider, giving the rest of the world a heads up. And he penned that in 1984. We have made it fiction, but we've now come to realize that it's really not fiction. So he's the insider's insider. And since then, we've had others that to dare cross that threshold. Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. But I want to speak a little bit about something I don't believe I've properly articulated, as it is this is important and an important subject for everyone, not just North Mississippi. Sometimes people get confused, or they try to segue what we're doing, USA, GSA, something that's indicative to North Mississippi. I happen to be based here, and what better place to be based in what is the quintessential ground zero for human and civil rights violations, especially in this country. What better place to house and to incubate diabolical crimes against humanity, hidden deep, deep within what is referred to as the buckle of the Bible Belt. And through community-oriented policing, and that is endowed by taxpayers and doled out by the Department of Justice to the tune of billions of dollars annually across this country. We know that this program on its face is always, it's about the children. And this coming from people that could care less about children. So get ready. I'm going to talk about the mass school shootings. I'm going to do that in another video. That'll go up sometime soon, within the next 24 hours, depending on how much data and bandwidth the Fusion Center is allowing me. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but in all honesty, I'm being dead serious. I've posted details on a lawsuit that has just been filed, and it has been assigned a case number 3:21-0098, I believe it is. And that case was assigned to Glenn H. Davidson, the district judge. Now, I don't know how long if he will pass that to someone else, recusing himself. I believe, and of course I'm not an attorney. I have met one, so that's my legal training in a nutshell. But I think there's an obvious conflict of interest that I assume they'll pick up on that. And if they don't, hey, then I'm not going to have to put much thought into Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals appeal. And I think that will speak for itself. And so it won't be difficult. And so the thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're mounting a legal defense, and I say legal defense, I'm the plaintiff. What am I defending? The Constitution. My constitutional rights. Your constitutional rights. Is the Constitution valid for every person in America? Yes. Are we all endowed with the inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Yes. And so in this last case, when my 5th and 14th Amendments were abjectly violated by two agencies, both of which are in two separate federal lawsuits of more of the same, while they have attorneys, law firms, that when this is said and done, their fees will stagger the imagination. Who's paying that? We are. Now, it's a little different if it was coming out of the violator's pocket. They want to argue and swiftly get cases dismissed based on, you guessed it, qualified immunity. My friend, qualified immunity has been out the door when it concerns the issues I have brought forth. When law enforcement officers and the sheriff, with his state actors, jointly and purposely and willfully design a scheme and program that will in fact violate this individual's due process, qualified immunity is out the door. Qualified immunity would cover you from a bunch of frivolous complaints. And of course, an officer's out there, he's trying to do this and do his job. And of course, he's going to overstep, but these are spontaneous actions. They can't sit there and go to law school every day and blah, 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 blah. I get that. We get that. This does not fit there. So who are the people behind the scenes that with a straight face have no issues with dragging a case out and continuing to abuse the victim when they full well know? Of course, their objective is to represent their clients. And if that requires agreeing and going along with a scheme to prevent this client from having his constitutionally protected right of having his day in court and due process, then you are no better than the criminals you represent. So let's talk about them. So we have William R. Allen of Allen and Walker and Breland and so forth and so on of Brookhaven, Mississippi. And for those that are right here in North Mississippi in Union County, we know that Brookhaven is not across the street or in the general vicinity or in North Mississippi. Brookhaven is down there close to the Capitol, the FBI field office for the state, Mississippi Department of Homeland Security, Mississippi Department of Public Safety. Oh, and the handlers are in the back rooms with Allen and Breland. I might have missed Allen there. At what point do they get off of that? I mean, it's really okay. Now, unlike their counterparts and co-conspirators, Lee County Sheriff's Department and Lee County, they've retained the same people that Mississippi Department of Corrections, Pontotoc County, and Chickasaw County all ran to none other than Mitchell, McNutt, and Sam's in Tupelo, Mississippi. And so is Lee County. Once again, Mitchell, McNutt, and Sam's, Margaret Gratz, and of course, Carnathan Law Firm, which is separate from that. So they've got two firms on their deal. just in legal fees. We're not talking about judgments or no judgments or an award of monetary damages and what that could possibly mean. And when you have cold, hard, unadulterated facts, one would think that these law firms would do everything to pull this off the headlines and do their dead level best to mitigate the exposure of their clients. But who am I to advise them? They're going to dig their heels in because there's too much at stake. What's at stake? Oh, there's a lot of people that have a lot of mud on their shoes. That's the exposure that they are fighting for. They've already spent in the past 10 years. It is a fair assessment to say the Home Office has already in the hole in excess of $1 million, and what they have done to shut me up. No exaggeration there. That's a lot of damn money. But you could pay a crackhead $50 to pull the trigger. But that doesn't make money. That doesn't bring the funds in. As long as they've got people like me they can put on a list that I'll never see, and they'll keep violating that person and relentlessly harassing and stalking, well, it's an ongoing crime. Of course, this entry that they make in order to get these federal funds are fraudulent. Each time is a felony. Yes. Well, who is culpable for these felonies? Well, everybody that's involved in the scheme of things here. No one can escape culpability working with the individuals I just mentioned. That's the short version of this deal. And so, as they send their crash dummies out with single-digit IQs, and the victim, like myself, stands his ground, well, they get the red ass. And they no longer have to get a Dollar Tree gift card or get validation of being a part of something and recognized. They're fueled by just give me some gas for my Kia and I'll continue to harass it. It did, of course, when it goes south, we've got to go arrest the victim and drag him and torture him and make him hemorrhage every last dime he may have been holding on to that we hadn't gotten already. Not just him, but his family and his friends, his loved ones. We're going to do that. We're going to do it relentlessly. Now, if what I'm saying is true, and it is, then maybe you can wrap your mind around the expense of what it would cost to do this. They said, well, it doesn't make, what do you mean it doesn't make sense? That pays salaries, that gives jobs where there was no job, shouldn't be a job, but the perfect paradigm of the judicial system of being worked and prostituted is in fact a money-making proposition. So there you have it with that. Now, so it's not just me. Now, multiply that times tens and thousands of victims and coincide that with federal grant money for community-oriented policing, and you get the same number. It's subtraction and addition, okay? It's you don't have to be a CPA or be able to spell CPA to do the numbers. That's the deal. It happens in broad daylight, and it can only happen with a theater of fools. The Department of Justice refers to this as the holistic approach to policing, where mental health retailers, of course private entities, nonprofit organizations, government officials, and of course law enforcement overseeing it. You see, the chief law enforcement officer of Union County, Mississippi happens to be the sheriff. And that's the deal. The chief law enforcement officer of this state is Lynn Fitch. This is a sovereign state. Or is it? Clint Hatch with the Public Integrity Unit in Jackson, Mississippi on a speakerphone call. I was under the understanding that General Fitch was in the room. And I quote, Mr. Moore, we're in receipt of your complaint. And in your complaint of alleged civil and constitutional rights violations by law enforcement in the state of Mississippi, we will not investigate. We will not read over evidence. We will not investigate. That's a fact. What does that mean? Is it their job to investigate? Yes. Did Lynn Fitch take an oath? Sure did. But folks, you got to understand, she didn't really mean that. She didn't really mean that. That she swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Mississippi from foreign and domestic. Now, we assume that when they say that, they're talking about everybody, and everybody has equal protection. Sorry. That's not possible. And we can start with Lynn Fitch and her new beau and the Ku Klux Klan background. And, folks, let me tell you, do we really want to know? I think we should. What makes anyone think in this country that the Ku Klux Klan is just a hate group from the past? They've dried up and fizzled away. Just like the Freemasons. They're still here. Even though you see the temples, church, their churches, they say it's not a religion. I say it is. They've written them out to bingo parlors and so forth. Why is that? Well, they're just not like they were. Oh, no. They've gotten a new house. The new house. That new house is in the minds and pockets of law enforcement. This holistic approach means everyone doing their part. The perfect paradigm to chaotic order and confusion is to have these different nonprofits involved. Churches, as I refer to and will continue to do so, fake churches. You may have noticed I've done several stories and will continue to do that on people that have died and where the coroners have given their cause of death as everything but the facts. We know they're no longer with us, but the families know there's more than a fly in the ointment. And why is the coroner and the sheriff's department or Mississippi Bureau of Investigation all singing the same song? Anybody can remember in our recent history where a sheriff's department and the Attorney General's Public Integrity Unit, Mississippi Bureau of Investigation have just butted heads with the local agency. No. The only thing you'll read is the multi-jurisdictional task force did a drug bust and got 6,000 people with dope, guns, and money. And some little old lady with sponge rollers in her trailer park. So I'm glad they cleaned it up. And we're all happy. And folks, let me tell you, that's the most absurd comfort zone you could possibly imagine, but people take it. I'm trying to take some people out of it. The only way to do it is by shedding some light on what's really going on. As I report, and as I do what I do, the defendants I've just named in these lawsuits continue with unlawful arrest, violations of my rights, my due process, and of course, that is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, where an American is what? Innocent until proven guilty. That's due process. That is the justice system. Now, we've all heard that. Let me say it one more time. You are innocent until proven guilty. Now, let's get its proper context. When a troop of backroom crash dummies, and they operate, folks, this feeds on the snitch and rat culture. Those community organizations and individuals working with community-oriented policing, also known as community orgasmic policing, are rats. Got that? Rats. Rats. Which their habitat is more indicative to a sewer, not in our neighborhoods and schools. That's the truth. Is it any wonder that we're having issues like Ramos, the mass school murderer? We need to look any further than the Sandy Hook massacre. And those that we haven't talked about that much, that were behind the scenes with community-oriented policing, stalking, and how that triggered an individual to do what they did. I'm going to talk about that in this next video. We need to have that conversation. And don't, for 1 minute, I am a professional Candy Crusher's mindset and say, well, it's them video games. Come on now. It's them video games. Really? You believe that? Do you believe that? Because those that believe that somehow a video game is making a young man go out and just murder people and start off his family. If a video game is that powerful and can actually do that to someone, do you think you'd be able to have those video games in America for children? Is that possible? No. No. I can understand why you can't buy China White at the grocery store. That's heroin for those that are not familiar with the term China White. Some of it, black tar. But we don't have, because heroin will kill you if you do too much. But, you know, we have that, for some reason. You can't buy it in the store, but you can buy a Call of Duty. And whatever reason they give you, folks, is BS. They try to blame it on the parents. Should be more, and I agree, a parent that even allows their child to have access to social media and these other things, and sticks a cell phone in their crib, and they've got them. So by the time, before they ever learn to speak or walk, grandmama or somebody's already stuck a device in that baby's hand. Not a Bible, but a smart device. Woo! That's irresponsible, because we have all these posts this guy was making on Facebook. We understand the fascist Mark Zuckerberg, then maybe you'll understand how he was able to talk about these things on Facebook and other people actually read it. Because I can say something on Facebook like I'm saying right now, and they absolutely shut me down because I have the perpetrators, some of them with more than 1 or 2 teeth in their head, that all they do is troll, and they complain about every single thing you post. Is Facebook aware of this phenomenon? Of course they are. Absolutely. It couldn't happen without their participation. I mean, I don't get too bent up about it. I mean, President Trump may have $1 billion in the bank, and I'm quite sure he can get a lot of things done, but by God, he couldn't get back on Facebook. But a serial killer or mass murderer, a child rapist, human trafficker, and they'll go in there in this hashtag save the children and all that. And people say, that's good, that's a good, wholesome thing. Yes, we want to save the children. But do you really? What are they, you understand, they'll tell you the whole story. Save the children for somebody else because we want to, that's like Grandma said, look, we want to save that bag of sugar back there. Now, save the sugar. We all know if we're saving the sugar, we're going to get something. And so we save the, that's what you're hiding behind. It's women's empowerment movement. The feminazis that hate men. And you even have a segment of African Americans that somehow feel validated now that they've given a prominent position within the all-inclusive Ku Klux Klan, now called Community-Oriented Policing, formerly known as COINTELPRO. That was banned by Congress. And it was just rebranded. So for those that thought COINTELPRO, what is that? Okay, pull away from Wheel of Fortune and pay attention here. Pay attention here. Because some of these good old boys you're giving the nod to in the past, they're not that good of an old boy. Unless you're one of those that are benefiting off the backs of Americans that have absolutely been victimized and abused in every conceivable human rights violation. And it's not North Korea. It's not Pol Pot. It's right here in America. And my job is what I'm doing, and I'll continue to do it. So these attorneys, as William R. Allen, he's filed a motion now to stay. In other words, once again, he's arguing before we had a statute of limitations issue, and this statute of limitations does not stop because this is a pattern, and this is a pattern of continued violations and crimes committed against the victim. Then the clock should not start ticking on the first violation, but on the last violation. So this is a continuous and a continuing tort, which they're well aware of it. William R. Allen. And we're going to make the world well aware of it. Why must you cast your lot with the enemy? You've been able to practice in the state of Mississippi unchecked because it's the establishment that runs this state. That's how you feel, isn't it? I got news for you. It may look like that. It may feel like that. But you have a job, and so does that sheriff and those deputies, the EMA director, and these irresponsible nonprofit organizations. They're getting tax-exempt status, and when a church, a 501c religious nonprofit, Scientology broke the IRS from dare whispering a word. That's why that cult has a free reign on imprisoning and their own members. That's right. And you folks, and so, but they have tax-free exemption, and nobody's asking any questions. Why? Scientology went on a smear tactic, rumor mill, stalking campaign, even at their houses, all the way to work, and every point in between, and they did it relentlessly to the IRS agents. Until finally, the leader of that cult contacted the director of the IRS and said, hey, if you would let all this go, we'll let it go. And what did he do? He let it go. Because the agents were crying foul. My family and all these are kids, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you, folks, evil is a hell of a thing. We can all admit that. It's something too big that we'll never grasp or wrap our minds around it. I agree. But I got news for you. Jesus Christ and Him crucified beat and conquered the very element I'm speaking of, and the one that's behind it. They are defeated. No, it's not subjective. They are defeated. I'm speaking right to you now, because this boy ain't gonna run. The God I serve didn't tell me to run. The God I serve didn't tell me to curl up my fetal position and whimper and cry and say, woe is me. What did He say when I said they're too big, there's too many, they've taken everything that I've got? He said, get up, dust yourself off, and you go back into the enemy's camp and you take what the devil stole from you. And that's what we're doing across this nation. As a citizen reporter with a Brady list, the link will be on here. USA, GSA, United States Anti-Gang Stalking Association, that portal. Is there something that do you have a complaint about anyone in law enforcement? Yeah, I said it right. Enforcement, attorneys, judges, prosecutors. Well, who do you tell? I just told you. And there's a section for you to go in there and click that and lodge that complaint, and that will trigger the proper agencies and this will be followed up and it will be part of their permanent public record. Be used in courtrooms, and it is being used in courtrooms across this nation. You can believe that. This levels the playing field for all Americans. It's kind of blank when it comes to North Mississippi. The Brady list, that's going to change. You see, when they told you, well, Richard, boy, that guy's crazy and he's this and he's that, everything they've told you, mind you, are the things that they want you to believe. That they made happen. If it's negative, put it on them. There's two sides to every story. When you quit taking their word as if God Himself came down on Mount Sinai and told it to you, when you stop that, then and only then, maybe, are you open to the truth. And this is what they seek to silence. As I talk to families, mothers, dads, brothers, and sisters daily about the murder of their child and how the sheriff has ignored them and dismissed it as they was on dope, or they was this, or they was that. They are not going away. And when you get a bunch of mothers and dads and brothers and sisters, and you've taken something, you're taking their everything, and they're coming after you, they're going to hold you accountable. Many will say, that's not advisable. Going after those folks, they're too big. And they may retaliate. And the answer is, well, what have I got to lose? Because everything that I had that could have been in question, they took it. And that is really the last thing they want, isn't it? Is a group of people, of Americans, that have put all their chips on the table because you know what? They ain't got nothing to lose thanks to you. And why, you've got everything to lose. That home and all these things, we're paying for it. Except when we have a problem, we get whatever lie is good for you to tell, just some dumb, stupid, off-the-record, good old boy crap. We all know that if you've got the right last name in the right place, it goes away. Everybody knows what I'm saying is true. Now, your tool is not to whine and complain and bitch, moan, and groan on social media. Go to the Brady List, and you find the appropriate section. I posted that link on there. We are officially citizens reporters. It's prominently displayed on their front page, and I know this pisses the home office off because you have done your dead level best to discredit and marginalize Richard Moore and his association. When I say association, that is individuals that have been abused and targeted, and some not, but absolutely demand justice and equal protection for all Americans, are working and supporting me in every imaginable area of this country and across this globe. I'm not exaggerating. I remember when I first started, I was using the word we. And of course, one troll, no, they do. The trolls, they have the trolls, they go, we, who is that? You see, they never have anything of substance to say or talk about. They're parrots, puppets, sock puppets, as one friend refers. And that's exactly what they are. Who are the puppets and who else is part of this deal? And I'm going to wrap it up on this. I'm trying to see my time, but I don't see it. Yeah, I do see it. Okay. Well, didn't mean to go that long, but at any rate, we don't have to look any further than Tennessee, or not Tennessee, that's Tennessee River, the Tennessee Balls, Roll Tide. Back to this. Tom Bigbee Electric. One would think that the rest of America would be, especially the Native Americans, would be slightly offended at this electrical co-op that does not employ, by the way, any Native Americans. But they got an Indian on there. And you'd say that song and dance about our culture and heritage. I mean, that's their culture and heritage, okay? That's not for you to be used as a marketing tool. But you go to Itawamba County and the chieftains and the Indians and powwows and squaws and all this stuff, and folks, really, I'm not trying to be politically correct, but it seems like we are have a double hypocritical standard here. If that's okay, then why isn't it okay to have Aunt Jemima on a syrup bottle? Or a picture of a Klansman on lily white flour? I mean, we could just go all out with this. Or maybe Ole Miss wouldn't be black bears, they would be rebels. And Johnny Reb would be back on the deal. But no, they're black bears or something. Real, what the hell they are. They don't know either. The fact that they just love to beat out Alabama. Let me tell you, we can't. There's just some things I've accepted that, and except you have to accept too, Rebel fans. And my dad played football for them, so they have a special place in my heart. But it's and I really am an Ole Miss fan until they play Alabama, and then there's no question where I stand on that. So Tom Bigbee Electric, I've talked about him. I've got hundreds of hours of documentation of stalking. And it's difficult to identify how these community-oriented policing works, but everyone playing their part in the strobing of streetlights at the precise time other malicious things are taking place. It doesn't strobe all the time, so we're on a smart grid. The majority of the street lighting in every city is on a smart grid structure. Just go into Tupelo and you'll see millions of dollars worth of cameras everywhere on every intersection. And I think the average Walmart aficionado, well, that's for people that run red lights. I'm telling you, folks, you can't make this up, really. So we're going to spend millions of dollars, and we're going to stop these damn people running these red lights. You know, got the crowd saying, yeah, red light runners. But they never stop a minute and think, you know what, that math's not working too good on that. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. I've called Tom Bigbee out on that. You see, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on these smart meters, because I get people just jump ship on me. You know, 20 years ago, you'd have to have a computer, well, I'm going to say 30 years ago, the size of 3 or 4 houses to do what one of the cheapest phones Cricket sells will do. That's true. So Grandma's flip phone is far more advanced and sophisticated than the computers we had 30 years ago. We all agree on that. The phones we have now are smart. I tell you, they've got dummies on the other end. I'm one of them. But I do outsmart that. If I wanted to take that device and chuck it in the river, that device can't swim. Not yet. I have the final say. You have the final say about that person in a position of trust that's creating these paradigms, and we're having these school killings, and we're looking at the family, we're looking at video games, we're looking at everything but who we need to be looking at. Stop, step away from the exhaust fumes, put the Kool-Aid down. If you look over there to your right, ladies and gentlemen, do you see that flock of people standing around? Many of them on their hands and knees, worshiping. Those are first responders. Hallelujah, God bless them. There is the culprit. And they're laughing and smiling, shooting up steroids, trying to figure out how to get them uniforms to stretch properly, because every now and then they have to get up and get their asses up out of those cars we paid for. It's hot here in Mississippi, and if you think somebody with a tight outfit on that loves to eat in a cold air conditioner car gets a call that might involve him doing something and breaking a sweat, we know that was the final demise. It needed a little help from the real killers, and Stone wasn't the killer, but Harold Ray Presley, that bulletproof vest, he was overweight, he could take that off. He felt relatively safe around his own people. He was wrong. Well, they blamed it on Stone. Well, guess what? A state trooper, and I'm quite sure he lost his job, happened to catch the call before the rest of Union County could get out there and screw up and doctor the crime scene, and he got there first and got to Stone first and absolutely locked down the evidence. He put bags over Stone's hands that apparently had emptied multiple rounds into Sheriff Harold Ray Presley. Well, guess what forensics told us? There was no gunpowder residue on Stone whatsoever. Hello. But he still gets credit for murdering the sheriff. Of course, that paved the way for Jim H. You People Johnson, Lee County. I know it just pisses them off me to bring it up. But you know what? Y'all have tormented and stalked that entire family. And what you had murdered in prison, claiming it was suicide. You've terrorized his wife, the widow, his daughter. And don't for a minute say, well, it's that dope. That go-to catch-all phrase is getting old. I'm talking to families and parents every day. And you know what they're saying? That's what they're hearing too. Cause of death. Whatever they put on the record, whatever lie they want to say, watch too many soap operas. What do you say, Sheriff? You know he's on that old dope. Oh, that's the magic word, especially in Mississippi. We're a little tired of it. The smart meters, wrapping it up. Tennessee, we'll go back to the Vols. Whew, Lord. I can't stand the Vols. I know I may lose some balls, but hey, you can't stand Alabama. And haters are going to hate. I mean, it is lonely at the top, folks. It's lonely at the top. And, when we pray. We in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. Thank you, Nick Saban. We got it bad. But at any rate, Tom, Bigbee Electric, and their smart meters, what kind of information does that smart meter gather? Well, I've got news for you. If you're using a microwave oven, they know you're using a microwave oven. What kind of microwave oven? How long you used it? Refrigerator. What kind of refrigerator? How often you go in and out of the refrigerator, and your television, the brand name and what you're watching, and how long you watched it. Who you text, called, or emailed, of course, they know. And if they're a little slow on some things, don't worry about it, because the grid is already monitored by the fusion centers, and they get all this information, put it together, that's fused together, make it one nice, neat, palatable form, and as my live video confirms, this information is for law enforcement. Were you talking about the same people that are crooks with badges? Yeah. Is the playing field a little screwed up? Okay. And folks, what I tell you is this not a conspiracy, it's the unmitigated truth. Fact check me on any of it. The smart meter tells them, were you home the night of the murder or not? What time you went to bed, what time you got up. And folks, when you plug in your phone, your computer, you have tethered yourself to the grid, to the smart meter. And people said, my phone was hacked. No shit. It must have been something I downloaded. That's what they want you to think. Now, don't click any suspicious links. Of course, AT&T and everybody's got to do their public service. Don't click that. Walmart shows you a picture of a guy with glasses and a bandit mask. Don't send money to people you don't know, and he's dancing around, yippee-yi-yay, and all this stuff. Confusing. Yeah, so we get our minds fixed on what crime looks like. We know how to spot it. Until somebody wakes you up and you say, you know what, I never envisioned that crime looked like that guy in a car that drives by says protected serve on the side. Guess what? Now you're learning something. Online, I have trolls and stalkers that come in. They make it their job to infiltrate, suck the life and time out of the victims, and to trip them up, make them play, shut them down, to just continuously agitate and harass the victim. All this together, the death of 1,000 paper cuts. It's on the heels of my constitutional rights being abjectly and vividly and prominently violated. After that's done, then guess what? I hear from Allen and Breland. And now they filed a motion on the case, and this is the 1-2 punch. So I know that the attorneys are well aware. They all work. We're going to mess him up. We're going to mess him up, and we're going to just, you do this, and we'll have him so addled and all this stuff, and then we'll file a motion. He'll never be able to articulate and counter that, and this is how we will kill the case, and it won't ever get to court. So what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen, is they prominently and willingly and publicly want to do everything possible to deny me my constitutionally protected day in court. The basic fundamentals of being an American citizen is being heard in an open public forum in a courtroom. And the only place for any constitutional question to be addressed is in a federal courtroom. The defendants, their attorneys, and their group of holistic, approaching criminals doing their part. And if everybody does their part, two things. It's not blatantly obvious. Well, it's just a normal kind of thing. It's just life. No, it isn't. And there's really too many people that got it too good to let it fail. Because when they start seeing the hemorrhage and the crack in the wall and the water to start trickling, they all run because, my God, don't let this out, because, that we get a lot of exposure here. And they may get us confused. There's nobody confused. Nobody confused. Those that are involved in this, you can step away right now. God will help you out. Many stay in because they have fear of retaliation. One of these trolls is one Matt Dillon, and I'm not talking about Gunsmoke. It's a real person. Plays golf. And I assumed for a long time it was just some, people get fake names on social media. And when he got blocked, well, then he took on John Wayne's character and called himself Pilgrim. Until he got wind that there is a we. That Richard Moore may, for the most part, sound misled and stupid and crazy and dumb. Maybe he didn't. Did a blind hog find an acorn? I don't know. You tell me. Then you try to disappear on us, Matt. Now, what is Matt Dillon in his prominent position at Tom Bigbee Electric Fiber, where they can high-speed hookups to everybody's home, the fiber optic guy? Why is he trolling me and trying to obstruct justice on social media across the board? Why is that? Now, folks, that should be concerning. He fits the profile of a federal, an FBI, narcissistic, a malignant narcissistic criminal. I've been working a long time to expose it. Now, if you have electricity, and I'm sure that you do, he said, well, this doesn't affect me. It doesn't? Okay, Mr. and Miss Jones, pillars of the community, never broke the law, always told the truth. Of course, all that's a damn lie if we really knew who you were. But that aside, when you're gossiping and chit-chatting with your friends and neighbors about hamburgers or Elda May's recipe or whatever, you're ultimately, conversations don't last long unless something negative comes in there and you talk about Bobby Joe and how they was fooling around and they're scared they're going to get in trouble and da-da-da-da-da. And you know what that's called nowadays? Dry snitching. You sit there running your mouth, but not realizing all that information is being captured. And we wonder how in the hell these people know all they know. They just listen to everybody, read everything. Now, this is run through a computer, and AI captures these things, and again, gets it diced to an algorithm and a probability in this predictive policing. That means every single American is innocent until predicted guilty. If you're not dealing and struggling with things that you can't explain, let me tell you what. Either you're contributing to it or you're being victimized from it. While they school you and have clinics and all these public service announcements of how people and different criminals are fleecing America, the story sounds good and it sounds plausible and it sounds real because those that we have put in office to tell us these things are telling it to us. Have you ever considered for a moment that they have told a lie? Well, yeah, everybody's told a lie. Well, hold a minute. We hold them to higher standard. They've told a lie and somebody's life was thrown away in a penitentiary or dead. Now, if they lie about that, what else are they lying about? Folks, all bets are off. I've said it again. I'll say it now. With the Brady list and USA, GSA, Richard Moore, this is for every city, every town, every state in America. We're going to hold them all accountable. In every jurisdiction, in every level and branch of our government, from law enforcement, every agency, judges, every level, prosecutors, every level. And this is where we take it. They've been taking it. They've been there for 15 years. They are the gold standard in transparency for civilians in America. And we have not done enough. We got to stop the complaining and get down to business. I don't know where we'll be in a few years from now. That's not even guaranteed. But understand this. It is important for every person. Now, what you going to do? Call Tom Bigbee Electric and ask them, are you really doing what he says you're doing? Now, do you really expect them to tell you the truth? Or will that make you feel better if they just lie to you? Or give you some long, drawn-out, convoluted, confusing answer? What I just told you about their fiber optic man, and the guy that is the director or whatever, how they do that deal over at Tom Bigbee Electric, and I believe it's Auburn Road, Lee County. Now, y'all see the nice building, all the matching vehicles, and the disrespectful Indian image on there. I mean, they Native Americans ain't got nothing to say about nothing. Just shut up. We'll give you a casino. Here's a bottle of whiskey. Same thing that did the African Americans. They own the plantation. The majority of African Americans are still on the plantation of complacency. That means that there are people that have set the African American back 450 years to relive another 450 years of servitude and unspeakable crimes. And the very people that cast their lot with that are those that you're joined hands with because it's for the children. Let's not be foolish, America. Subscribe and share. Don't miss these next videos. Let me hear from you. I'm 100% listener supported. Hey, folks, let me tell you, God's calling the shots here. There is good news. Until next time, God bless you.